The Alice Stewart Show is on the air and on your radio right now. Here's more from Alice on 96.5 The Voice.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show on this fine Friday. Sunday is the big day, Super Bowl Sunday, and as many of you are aware, the Seattle Seahawks will be taking on the Denver Broncos in the big game. But there is one family, one community that will be keeping a special eye on the Seattle Seahawks, number 69, defensive tackle Clinton McDonald. His parents and his family live in Jacksonville, and they could not be more proud of their son, Clinton McDonald. I'm happy to be joined via the Royal Overhead Door Hotline with Mr. and Mrs. McDonald. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I want to talk to you. This is Larry and Bonnie McDonald in Jacksonville, and I want to ask you this. How proud are you of your son, knowing that he will be playing in the Super Bowl this Sunday? Miss McDonald?
Well, I would say I'm very pleased with the Seahawks and Clinton's accomplishments this year, because it's been a roller coaster of a ride for this year, just getting to where we're at right now. Just like I told my daughter when they played the AFC game the other night, and I called her in South Carolina, I said, sweetheart, I said, well, you look at God. I said, Seahawks going to the Super Bowl.
Mr. McDonald, what about you? You must be so proud of your son.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I'm proud and I'm happy, but I'm not blown up about it. And I'll tell you the reason why. He is humble. Mm-hmm. So am I. And I thank God for what he has done as far as getting him there.
Yeah.
I would have never thought in a million years that I would have a son playing in the Super Bowl, more or less in the NFL. So with that said, I'm just happy that he is pursuing his career. It's all about him. It's not about me.
Well, I think you have it all in the right perspective. I want to ask you a little bit, looking back, you say your son has always played football from a very young age. He's enjoyed it, and he has been very talented on this. And Miss McDonald, for him to continue to play in school, you had a set of rules that he had to follow in order for him to play football. Tell me about that.
Well, it all started when he and his brother Clayton would play football with the junior high kids outside in the grassy area outside of the house. And they would get out there and tussle and tumble, and they didn't care how big those kids were, and they continued to play. But when Clayton went on to high school, Clayton's first requirement was to play in the band. So he couldn't play football until around about his 9th grade year. So Clinton had a friend that moved away to California. Then his dog died. And he felt like, God, she was gone. So he basically, his friends were coming every day in the summertime, taking them, and I didn't know they were going up to the field up there behind the baseball field up at Excel Park. And they were practicing for the football in the Independent Youth Football League.
Right.
So about 2 weeks that went on, and so finally one of the coaches that coached with my husband during the Boys and Girls Club time that they played basketball, he said, Mac, I thought you told me that Clint was going to be playing with us, with the Vikings, for the football season. And he said, yeah, he's going to play with y'all. He said, he's going to play. He said, well, tell me why is he over there playing with the Jaguars? And he's been out there for 2 weeks. And so we came back home. My husband asked Clint, and he said, Clint, I did promise Coach Shell that you're going to play with him for the year. And he said, well, Dad, that's okay. He said, if you want me to play with them, I'll play with them because, you say so. He said, but I feel like I shouldn't have to because my friends came and got me every day. Brett and Brock and Chris came to get me every day, and we went up to that field. And so he went up there, and he said, this is who I think I ought to play with because they were loyal to me. And when he made that statement, I said, that's a big decision to make for a 12-year-old.
Right.
And so we stuck with it and allowed him to basically keep his commitment. And I told him, I said, let me tell you this. If you play football, because he hadn't been to junior high and he hadn't joined the band yet. I said, you have to put in, you got to do your homework, you got to get A's and B's in your coursework. I said, then you have to do your chores around the house, and then you have to stop picking on your little brother. And he said, Caleb. I said, well, he said, I can do all of that. I said, well, I'm going to hold you to it. And he did. He stuck with everything we told him to do. And I met the coach, and the coach, came out and he shook my hand, Coach Brian Washington. He said, ma'am, we appreciate you letting them play with us. He said, because I can promise you this one thing. This kid will play in the NFL.
And he did. He certainly did. He's played in the NFL for 5 years, the last 3 with Seattle Seahawks, and he was cut earlier this season, and he came back to Jacksonville and worked and trained and stayed in shape. And Mr. McDonald, I want to ask you this. You say his life is an act of faith, and that's gotten him to where he is. But what is it about Clinton and his spirit and his nature and his determination that has kept him so focused and allowed him to persevere despite the setbacks that he has had?
Well, I tell you, and I didn't discover this myself until recently, but he stated to me, he said, Pops, I've been watching you a lot. I like the way you do things. And I never thought that he was paying attention to the way I conducted myself and I did things around the house. He's just the type of fellow, a type of youngster that has paid good attention to the way things going in the family and in the community.
Well, and that's a tribute, in my view, to the way you parented your kids. You have 6 children, and Miss McDonald, you say that you've always worked to keep them busy and keep them focused, and that is clearly something that has paid off for Clinton playing in the Super Bowl.
Well, not just that, like you said, what Dad just said about working hard. The kids always saw him there working, and then with us being right there at home, and just basically as a family and a large family, the faith played a lot. And because he did, as a family, we went through a lot of struggles, a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations. So all the things we've gone through, we watched, the Lord just bring us through every trial and tribulation. And so with the kids, going through the different things that they've gone through, going to school, and just everything was centered around the family. And like when he went away I remember when the Seahawks called him up and said, Clinton, you're going to be traded to the Seahawks. And so he called us at home. He said, Mom and Dad, and he was upset. I said, why are you upset? He said, well, I just got called by the Seahawks, and I'm leaving Cincinnati, and I'm going out there, and I don't know what I'm going to be going into, and I'm afraid you all may not like it that I'm going to Seattle, Washington, and I'm going to be out there. And we said, is that all you're worried about? I said, we're still going to be with you regardless of where you go.
That's great.
We'll just be with you. Don't worry about being so far away from home. I said, you've been away from home before. We're just going to stick with you one way or the other, because this is family.
Right.
We stick with each other.
And I think another key thing that you have mentioned, Mr. McDonald, is that in part of Clinton's nature is that once he starts something, he wants to see it through, and his football career is a classic example of that nature.
Yes, ma'am. And I think also, and it just dawned on me, he wanted to please his parents.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Whatever he did, he wanted to please his parents. And to back up some of that, when he sat here on draft day, waiting for his name to be called, and he sat you all day Saturday, his name ran across the screen, he did never get called for his particular team. There was people calling, but they wanted him to walk as a free agent. And he said to me, the Pops, he said, some of them guys that they drafted, I done played against. He said, they're not that good. He said, I'm not going to accept no walk-on. I'm going to get drafted or I ain't going to go at all. So they waited until Sunday. And the local news media was here with him. He didn't get called up till late Sunday evening. 7th-round draft pick. And Marvin Lewis, I'll never forget it. He called it. He said, Clinton, how would you like to be a Bengal? He said, yes, I will. He said, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Wow, that was a great call. Very, very wise decision.
Ma'am.
I want to ask you both one last question before I know you've got a lot going on. I want to ask you this. When you see Clinton out there Sunday on the field wearing 69 for Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl, tell me what will be going through your mind, Mr. McDonald?
Well, it will reflect back to when he was first born. He was a little fella. And his mom, of course, she was in the United States Army Reserve. She was an officer in the United States Reserve. And we went up to Fort Chapman. That's where she was having duty.
Right.
He was a little fella. And we were walking around, and he was on the swing, and he fell off the swing and hit his head. He started crying. He cried one and then he shut up. He was a tough little fella. And things like that don't start going through my mind. And as he grew. And as he grew, the things that he watched, which, like I said, I didn't know at the time that he was observing these things. But he always wanted to please his parents. He wasn't the kind of kid want to go out and do what he wanted to do, particularly, but he wanted to do what was pleasing his parents. Because just like the wife said, when he got the call from the Seahawks from Cincinnati, the first thing he did is call us. He says, I got a call from Pete Carroll today. I've been traded. And I said, well, son, what's wrong with that? He said, well, Pops, that's a long way away. I said, son, I knew when you got into the league, you wasn't going to be in one place too long.
Right.
Don't worry about Pops. I was going to take care of himself and his family. You go ahead wherever they want you. That relieved him right there. And then he left. He called me 12 o'clock at day, 12 o'clock at night. He was being greeted by Pete Carroll in Seattle. He's been there ever since.
Well, that's great. Ms. McDonald, you want to ask you, when you see your son out there on that field Sunday playing in the Super Bowl, what will be going through your mind?
I guess I could think back to when his older sister and his brother went off to school, and he was the last one left at home for a while. So every morning he would get up, and there was a bicycle out there, and he couldn't ride at that particular time. We didn't have a fence around the house. Every morning he would get up and take that bike and walk around the house. And he did that for about 15 times every morning. And then I watched him about a month and a half later on. He got on that bike and he rode it. All I could think about is determination and perseverance and what he basically set out in his mind what he was going to do. He was going to ride that bike. And I'm going to get on it one day. And I'm going to get on it and ride it on my terms. And he did. And right now, where he's at the Super Bowl, the struggles he's gone through, the ups and downs, he was determined that he was going to be there. And here he is right now in the limelight of the biggest game, practically in the world. And, how the good Lord allowed him to have this opportunity to sit there and be here in this stage right now. In Jacksonville, Arkansas, and practically everybody in the United States can see the Seattle Seahawks and him, number 69, out there living a dream.
Well, we certainly will be cheering him on, and as you say, he is the classic example of determination, perseverance, and living a life of faith. And we will be cheering on number 69, Jacksonville, Arkansas's own Clinton McDonald. Mr. and Miss McDonald, Larry and Bonnie, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much, and God bless, and we'll be cheering for him on Sunday.
Okay.
Well, let me say this last thing. As he always said, he said, Mama, I just want God to get the glory for this. God is one that basically gave me the opportunity to shine at this particular time. And like you said, when Mike Zimmer told him the first time he went there in New Orleans playing that preseason game, he said, get a song in your heart and sing it. He said, let this little light of his shine at this particular time.
All right. Well, we will be praying for it, and I'm sure it will. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to talking with you soon. God bless.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, God bless. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more right here on the Alice Stewart Show.
You gotta live and learn, you gotta crash and burn, you gotta make some stances and take some chances, you gotta live and love and take all life has to give. You gotta live and learn so you can learn
Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.